and it was good fun, and it took our minds off what else was going on. A big bang, oh that was a big bang, was it on the airfield? And there will be heads up over the wall looking, can't see anything, can't see any smoke. Can you see any airplanes? No, I can see there's one upside down. And we'd be looking about a mile and a half away, and you would see this bloody aircraft upside down. As a child, you don't realise that that's some poor sod's dead in there, and he'd been shot down or whatever and gone over, and it didn't. As a child, it didn't seem to get through to your basic instincts. It just got through to the bit that said aeroplanes, bombs, and when's dinner time sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it was...
It wasn't scary, was it really?
It was scary, but not... It wasn't as scary because we were too damn young
That's right.
to appreciate what was going on. And you didn't hate the Germans for ages.
You had to be taught that at school.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you see one looking like this, don't go to it. Even if it's on the ground, you don't go to it. Keep away. It'll blow up in your face.
Oh,
It won't.
charming.
What? No, go on.
Oh,
You know.
God.
Come on, Jenny, go. You can have a look at it first.
Somebody else first. Yeah, I will, but you know, after you.
Oh yeah, that was a laugh. And
But those Anson shelters were very wet inside, weren't they?
oh,
They were terribly.
I tell you what, we've done
uncomfortable.
rats in
I've always
there.
wondered if they were usually dug into the ground, weren't they?
They were.
So what stopped them filling up with water? What stopped it
Nothing.
being like
They did.
you'd have
That was the
They
answer.
were
If
put on
it
the
had
slope,
been
so
raining, you'd have at least 6 inches of water in the bottom.
well,
And as
if you happened
kids,
to have a flat back garden, you were stuffed basically, weren't you?
Yeah,
yeah.
they were, yes, that's right.
Well, as children, you expected if you entered a shelter, I can't remember what the doorway was like, it was just a hole. I think.
Yes, it was just a hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we used to scuttle down because your feet went from under you usually, and you'd be down in the bottom and find you were standing in about 6 inches of water.
You'd have your Wellingtons on.
Wellington.
Not necessarily.
Didn't have Wellingtons. They were posh, they were, Wellingtons.
Plastic bags wrapped around the feet, you know.
We had boots, and what would we be doing there? We'd go into the water and start playing around with boats and stuff, pieces of wood. And of course Fred wasn't in the army then, I just remembered. He was working in Shrewsbury, I think. Not quite sure where he was, but he would make us copies of things. And he'd say, he'd come home, and bloody starving, and Mum would make sure he had plenty to eat. And then, just before we'd got to go to bed, he would say, it's time you kids were in bed. And we used to always think, it's not his job to tell us to go to sleep.
Well, he was playing the head of the family, wasn't he?
Because it
your dad
was.
away.
We didn't realise the authority that he had, because he was probably 18, or coming up to it,
Must have been.
and then he disappeared. And he'd been called up, of course, And we used to say, "Where's Fred? Never mind where Fred is." And I used to see this on her face. There was a change, you know, and you'd think, why did Mum go all quiet? And
yeah, there must have been worried sick. Parents must have been worried
Oh,
sick.
terrible.
Well,
Yeah,
parents,
must have been.
girlfriends, wives.
Yeah,
yeah.
must have been.
and they'd
Awful.
go, yeah, and then you'd get one of the neighbours come round, and you'd see Mum with her arm round her, leading her into the shelter. You think she got their own bloody shelter. It doesn't matter. And somebody would say, because Dad wasn't there, don't know where the hell he was, in Egypt somewhere. And we'd watch to see what grown-ups were doing, a few minutes, and then sort of latch on to what, if they went into the shelter, we'd go into the shelter, but if they didn't, because one of the things we used to do was go up the garden. We had a bloody big garden, and God, we have to climb over a bloody fence. Anyway, so go over a fence into a field, and they'd have bales of hay in there, and as kids we couldn't lift a bale, so. But if we brought it into our garden, Mum would knock hell out of us. Don't bring things home! Bang! Ooh. Sorry.
What do you mean, steal the farmer's hay?
Yeah, you're stealing. And she'd say, if he sees that in our garden, he'll... So,
Don't be trouble, I'll have to pay for that.
yeah, you would as well.
Mm.
And so he would come down later, the farmer would say, "I've come for a couple of my bales." On his back.
Surely couldn't. You children couldn't lift a whole bale.
No.
Well, it'd be Bob, would it?
You
Wasn't
could
well.
probably drag something a fair way, I should imagine.
Dragging, yeah, that's true. Mm.
He was working in a garage at that time.
Mm.
Or was, yeah. And yeah.
There wasn't any traffic to speak of on the roads
Oh God, no.
in these villages.
No, you could